Good, good morning. Welcome to the Online Unitarian Society, a Unitarian Universalist congregation in East Brunswick, New Jersey, with folks tuning in from all over, including members from UU congregations in Paramus, Hunterdon County, and Somerset Hills. I'm Angela Pinero, today's worship associate, and I warmly welcome you to our virtual Sunday service, whether this is the first or the 100th time of gathering with us. As I continue my welcome, I encourage you to type into the chat from where in the world you are joining us. Feel free throughout the service to use the chat as a way to engage and interact. Feel free to ignore the chat if it's distracting to your experience of our worship time together. This morning, I'm joined by our music director, Nicholas Place, and our guest speaker, Alia Shinbrough, a longtime TUS member. Alia graduated from Harvard Divinity School with a degree in ministry this past spring and is pleased to be invited back for this summer's virtual collaboration. All ages are welcome to this worship service. We have other offerings throughout the week. Sign up for your weekly emails to stay on top of them. Our chat chaplain, Carol Church, will type the email address into the chat for you to sign up if you are not receiving them, and also to share in your social networks, friends, and family. After the formal online service is over, there is virtual coffee hour. We hope you will stay and join our small breakout groups. This is another way to make and strengthen connections. This is no time to be alone. While we must stay apart, we must also stick together in all the ways we can during this pandemic. And now, let us raise up that which is worthy.
Thank you for joining us here today. It is so good to see all of your faces. To begin our service today and settle into this virtual space we're creating together, I'm going to ask you to extend me your trust for a few minutes. You ready? As you're able, safe, and comfortable, I ask that you settle into a relaxed position and close your eyes. Let's just breathe together, starting with one deep breath. And as you are breathing, I want you to turn your thoughts to a question. What are you bringing with you into this space? And now I'll ask you to turn your thoughts to a new question. What do you need to put aside or let go of to be fully present in this space today? And finally, I'll ask you to turn your thoughts to the question, what is on your heart which might be shared with the hearts of others in this space? Know that the person in the Zoom screen next to yours also brings things into this digital space, also has things to put aside to be fully present in this space, also holds a spark in their hearts, which might kindle or be kindled by the spark in yours. And as I light this chalice, and you light yours, may we take one more large breath together. Let's worship.
Let us all join in these words that are action, reserving to each individual the right to their own beliefs as to the nature of God and the universe.
For these joys and sorrows, and those that remain privately in our hearts, we give thanks to be in this company of thoughtful minds, loving hearts, generous spirits, and helpful hands.
Our next hymn today is Spirit of Life. This is our collaborative virtual choir video for Spirit of Life. Please sing along.
This morning's reading is called 5 Fears to Fear and Then No More by Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes. Going over and over one's fears is empty and emptying. There's something greater that sustains. We call it esperanza, hope. We call it querer es poder, desire is power. Hope and desire are power. Fear, ha! Fear, ha! Ha, hum, fear. Psst, pff, pff. Consider that most fear is not fear of failure. Rather, it's fear to live fully, in full power. Choose your petty fears carefully because they can grow truly big teeth. Instead, draw your attention here. I have several fears I would like you to have. Fear these. Fear not loving while you have the chance. Fear becoming bitter. Fear cynicism. Fear turning to stone. Fear living underwhelmed by everything. When the culture drags you back and forth between being fearful and being a person who gives blessings, give blessings. When the culture drags you back and forth between being fearful and being merciful, be merciful. When the culture drags you back and forth between being fearful and being forgiving, be forgiving. When the culture drags you back and forth between fearing and loving, when the great they say it must be decided one or the other, you can either be fearful or you do the other. Be loving. Refuse to do only one. Choose all of them. Be fearful and bless others. Be fearful and be merciful. Be fearful and forgive. Be fearful and do. Be fearful and love. It is by doing the blessing, doing the mercy, doing the forgiveness, doing the loving, and doing the doing that fear is dissipated. In the spirit of generosity, we will now take up this morning's offering online. We invite you to cut and paste the link in the chat, which will take you to our PayPal portal. We call it Be the Change. What was once the change in our pockets, using our financial resources to be the change we want to see in the world. Half of what you give through PayPal this morning will go toward the cause outside our congregation. The other half will go towards sustaining this congregation, which sustains you, which lives out our principles and values as deeply and widely as our imaginations allow, which provides connection and promotes compassion. Today's Be the Change recipient is Elijah's Promise Soup Kitchen, the Unitarian Society's longest continuous charitable partnership. Though volunteer shifts have been canceled, the staff at Elijah's Promise is still filling a dire need for food assistance. Here's a statement from Elijah's Promise website. The line outside Elijah's Promise Soup Kitchen snakes around the block. People aren't in cars but on foot waiting patiently. Otherwise, they don't eat. Thanks to you and the generosity of others, everyone who waits in line gets food for the day. Our guests are no longer allowed inside to eat, but instead are given a hot meal plus a bagged one to go. But our supplies are running low. We are asking you once more to help fill our freezer. Please use the PayPal link to donate to help fill this urgent need. May your generosity heal the world and strengthen your heart.
We can never know what will happen to us next. We can try to control the uncontrollable by looking for security and predictability, always hoping to be comfortable and safe. But the truth is that we can never avoid uncertainty. This not knowing is part of the adventure. It's also what makes us afraid. These words come to us from Pema Chodron, the renowned Tibetan Buddhist nun, author, and teacher, from her book, Comfortable with Uncertainty, 108 Teachings on Cultivating Fearlessness and Compassion. These are not comforting words, but they gently share a truth that many of us have become all too familiar with recently, the truth of our own precarity, uncertainty, and fear. I'd like to say that this is a sermon about not being afraid. I'd like to say that I am not afraid, but the truth is I am. In this moment, I am afraid. In this moment, I am unsure. In this moment, I am insecure. This moment and those that have preceded it have been awash with overwhelm, and my fear has been a present and persistent companion for many months at this point. Given the amount of uncertainty we have all been dealing with over these generations of police brutality and years of the politics of war and hate, and many, many months of pandemic and weeks of resurgent protests met once again by astonishing displays of police brutality, and the days and days of stress and uncertainty without a clear end in sight, to not be afraid is, I'm afraid, well beyond me. I am afraid and uncertain and overwhelmed, and I'm also alive in a way I have not experienced before, electrified by this political and social moment, engaged and intrigued and uncomfortable and exhausted and vulnerable in ways that are both glaringly familiar and entirely novel. I am all these things and more, and I believe and I hope that you are as well. Meanwhile, I am doing my best not to be ruled by my fear, not to let it convince me that retreat is the only viable and strategic option, that waiting to begin my life again when it is safe, if it is ever safe again, is the preferable course of action. I don't know what happens next, but following children, I'm trying to look at this not knowing as part of the adventure. This is not to say that I'm not doing my best to keep myself and others as safe as possible, not at all. I am not running from my fear or letting my fear or even my own desire to deny it run me in directions that are obviously contrary to common sense and public health and moral decency. But I am trying to stop denying that fear is what I am feeling, as well as trying to not let that admission convince me that fear is the only thing I am feeling. As Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes wrote so beautifully in her blessing poem that served as our reading today, when the great they say it must be decided, one or the other, you can either be fearful or do the other, be loving, refuse to do only one. I am staking my refusal here. I refuse to only be afraid. I will be afraid, and I will not allow my fear to turn me cold to strangers and friends and the world outside my comfort zone. I will be afraid, and I will do what is in my power to live as fully as possible. Today, I am asking you to join me. Will you join me? Today's service is all about adjusting our expectations and releasing ourselves from the constraints of a theory of what is normal, a theory that has long been irrelevant to our present conditions. This phrase that serves as our title today, "What expectations of normal are you letting go of today?" comes from a list of daily quarantine questions written on a Post-it note, which went viral across social media long, long ago in that far-off time we called March. In the lifespan of a viral post, this picture of a Post-it note is already quite ancient, but its message is one I feel is still quite relevant to our current August existence. It is the logic behind this question, that there are expectations of normal which we must let go of every day, which has inspired each element featured in this service. The first of these expectations, I believe we must let go of every day, is rooted in the idea that life without fear is somehow normal. In the past few months, I believe we have all gotten a taste for how uncomfortable uncertainty can be. And beyond this, we've been bombarded by messages about the urgency of getting back to normal, getting the economy back on track, getting kids back to school, and the like, as if these are possible or even desirable options for the present and near future. I think one of the obscured lessons of our experiences of these difficult times is not only that we have begun to question which expectations of normal we are reinforcing and upholding contrary to evidence and inclination, but that our definitions of success, safety, and surety are rapidly shifting as well. In his book, Earth in Mind, Oberlin Environmental Studies professor David Orr writes, "The plain fact is that the planet does not need more successful people, but it does desperately need more peacemakers, healers, restorers, storytellers, and lovers of every kind. It needs people who live well in their places. It needs people of moral courage, willing to join the fight to make the world habitable and humane. And these qualities have little to do with success as we have defined it. If the curses of fear are that it can be paralyzing, overwhelming, disheartening, and can prevent us from acting as our best selves, the potential blessings of fear are that our priorities are suddenly much clearer, our values are much dearer, and our perspectives are more nuanced and open to change. I think one of the most important expectations of normal that we are letting go of is the idea that success looks one particular way, can be measured accurately and effortlessly according to an ideal, and can infinitely continue to grow without slowing, without doing harm, without encountering loss. Having spent the last 3 years studying to build my competency with a form of ministry that has rapidly evaporated over the last few months, I can report with high confidence that letting go of these kinds of expectations is neither comfortable nor easy. But one of the hardest lessons I've learned, and I'm still learning today, is that working different spiritual practices into my routine has made these unexpected hurdles and unwelcome transitions a little smoother at least. Regularly prioritizing spiritual practices of various kinds has helped me carve out emotional space to handle the unexpected with just a smidge more flexibility and grace and calm than I might otherwise have access to in the face of compounding crises. As Unitarian Universalists, I believe one of our greatest gifts is the ability to hold multiple truths, to live in a space of gentle and generative tension, and to work through these realities by seeking wisdom from multiple sources and perspectives. Your experiences and practices may not match or neatly fit with mine, but we can still learn from each other and can appreciate the wisdom others have sought and offered for troubled times just like these. Together, we can let go of the expectation that normal looks the same for everyone, is better for everyone, or is desirable for everyone. So how do we let go? I suggest that the key to letting go is making space in our lives for the new priorities that are emerging. We must build practices which grow the spaciousness in our routines to be able to process multitudes of vital information, including sensory input and value judgments and spiritual connections. We let go of measures of success that depend on us working harder and longer than we can safely function through, and which will never be enough. We let go of our need to be certain, our illusions of solid ground, our always-on mentalities. When possible, we release ourselves from the bombardment of notifications and messages that keep us from ever fully being present. We reject assumptions that anything worth doing or having fits into a transactional mode of operating. Over the last few months, one of the expectations of normal I've had to let go of, and which I encourage you to let go of as well if it's something you're still clinging to, is the idea that spiritual practices are optional or something to be fit into our days only when time is readily open and available, and of course when it is convenient. It seems to me in this time of great hunger for connection and profound need to anchor ourselves in the midst of constant uncertainty and change, tuning into Zoom or YouTube for 1 hour on Sunday and calling it spiritual practice for the week doesn't cut it as an expectation of normal we can maintain today. I welcome a shift of mentality as we let go of viewing spiritual practice as just another activity we routinely do to feel good, but isn't really necessary for our survival and growth. In everyday spiritual practice, Simple Pathways for Enriching Your Life, contributor Barbara Wells offers insight in this regard, noting that comfort and spiritual peaks are wonderful, but spiritual practice is ultimately designed to make us better people and to bring our gifts into the world. The most important spiritual task we have as human beings is to make this planet kinder, more humane, and more just. Making this planet kinder, more humane, and more just sounds to me like exactly what we need right now. And this is by no means a quick and simple task, but neither is it an impossibly complicated and unapproachable one. It's something which is already always in reach of all of us if we choose to meet halfway. Recall the 2-minute centering meditation we began our service with today. Embracing spiritual practice as a key to survival in turbulent times such as these means giving yourself 2 minutes on occasion to pause, to process, to honor the transitions in your daily routine. Even in the busiest day filled with the utmost urgency, finding a 2-minute lull and taking that time to center yourself should be possible. Today, I and we had to let go of an expectation of normal that in this newly digital spiritual community, services and elements of worship will proceed as expected or as have traditionally been the case, or as worked best when we were physically present with each other. How we began today is different. How we will end today might be too. We can fear this change and the uncertainty that comes with it, but we should be able to distinguish between which fears pull us back, which fears ground us in reality, and which fears push us forward. I'm asking you to inoculate yourself from those petty fears that pull you out of yourself, to instead save that space for those fears that matter most. As Dr. C.P. Estes implores us, fear these. Fear not loving while you have the chance. Fear becoming bitter. Fear cynicism. Fear turning to stone. Fear living underwhelmed by everything. Choose yourself, your dignity, your time, your space, your ability to create in a way that no one else may quite the same. May these fears remind you that you are alive, that life is worth living and is not here to be watched or consumed or flipped through until we get to the good parts. May we continue to let go of our expectations of normal as we greet each new day, so we make the most of them. Once again, I invite you to take in the words of Pema Chodron. Ordinarily, we are swept away by habitual momentum. We don't interrupt our patterns even slightly. With practice, however, we learn to stay with a broken heart, with a nameless fear, with the desire for revenge. Sticking with uncertainty is how we learn to relax in the midst of chaos, how we learn to be cool when the ground beneath us suddenly disappears. We can bring ourselves back to the spiritual path countless times every day, simply by exercising our willingness to rest in the uncertainty of the present moment over and over again. May you be reminded that when the ground is uneven and you are uncertain and what happens next is unexpected, that this is the adventure and that you are always a part of this blessed motion. May we bring ourselves back and back again to this path of spiritual connection and committed practice. And in so doing, may we push ourselves forward to find that on this path, we are in good company and never, ever alone. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
Our next hymn today, our final hymn today, is My Life Flows On in Endless Song. The lyrics are displayed on your screen. Please sing along. My life flows on in endless song, above the earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn, that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
And now, as we come to the end of our service together, please join me in extinguishing your chalices by reciting the words on your screen. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our closing words today come from John O'Donohue. For loneliness. When the light lessens, causing colors to lose their courage, and your eyes fix on the empty distance that can open on either side of the surest line to make all that is familiar and near seem suddenly foreign. When the music of talk breaks apart into noise and you hear your heart louden while the voices around you slow down to leaden echoes, turning silence into something stony and cold. When the old ghosts come back to feed on everywhere you felt sure, do not strengthen their hunger by choosing fear. Rather, decide to call on your heart that it may grow clear and free to welcome home your emptiness, that it may cleanse you like the clearest air you could ever breathe. Allow your loneliness time to dissolve the shell of dross that has closed around you. Choose in this severe silence to hear the one true voice, your rushed life fears. Cradle yourself like a child, learning to trust what emerges, so that gradually you may come to know that deep in that black hole, you will find the blue flower that holds the mystical light, which will illuminate in you the glimmer of springtime. Thank you all.
And thank you, Alia, for being with us today. And to this morning's worship team, our music director, Nick Place, who also put together our visuals, our Zoom tech, Rich Corridor, and our chat chaplain, Carol Church. And all of you for being with us this morning. After the postlude and the final slide is shown for a few moments, you will receive an invitation to join a breakout room for virtual coffee hour, which will last for about 15 minutes. Please click join if you would like to attend. It's another way we share fellowship and stay connected in this difficult time. Have a great week, everyone.